In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a wine or a cider out of store-bought juice. So let's get started. All right, so in front of me, you see I have 4 different kinds of store-bought juices, and I have 2 bottles of each one. So in this video, I am going to show you how to make a wine or possibly a cider out of each one of these. And I am going to show you the difference between using, I'll say, cheaper yeast, quote, which is your Fleischmann's active dry yeast. It's stuff you can get basically a ton of it for super cheap. And versus like a wine yeast. So this is a Lavin D47 packet, widely used for wine making and mead making and those various things. So in each one of these, in like these 4 in the front, I'm going to put the bread yeast, and these 4 in the back, I'm going to put the wine yeast. And what I'm hoping to show you is that using a nicer yeast will yield a better quality product, even with something as simple as this. So the first step, you don't have to do this, but I would highly recommend, if you can, to know how alcoholic your product is going to be, I would take a gravity reading. So what you're going to need is you don't really even have to have this, you need a hydrometer to float inside of the liquid. So I'm going to go ahead and float this in here, see where it lands, and then write down my information so I know exactly how high the gravity is for each one of these. You want to float your hydrometer in the mead, so this is floating at 1.058 roughly. I turn the hydrometer around and it looks like I'm at about 7.4%, or I can use this website, which tells me exactly what my ABV will be, assuming that I end at 1.000. Now that my gravity readings are done, I forgot that some of these are not tall enough, so my hydrometer actually hit the bottom. I had to put them into here. If you need to get a really big cup or a long tube like this, if you're taking your gravity reading, put your hydrometer in, make sure it floats. If you're using the exact same juices as me, so this is cran pineapple ocean spray juice. Throughout the nation, these should be the exact same. Your starting gravity is 1.048. If you're using juicy juice, cherry juice, which is, whatever standard, that is 1.050. If you're using the Welch's grape juice, 1.068 for the starting gravity on that. And great value apple juice is 1.050. Here's the most important thing. You could do this with other juices, that's fine. You have to ensure that there is 0 potassium sorbate in these juices if you do this. Potassium sorbate is a preservative / something they put into lots of different foods to kill bacteria, and they also kill yeast, anything from really growing. So if you put your yeast into something that has potassium sorbate into it, the yeast won't function. They will just basically die. So next step is really, really simple. I'm going to put 1 gram of each of my yeasts in here. So I'm going to put 1 gram of the bread yeast into each one of these, and then 1 gram of my Lavin D47 into these, and I'll be right back. I have all of my yeast put in, and you can see maybe that some of these are falling to the bottom, and that's pretty normal. So what I'm going to do real fast is I'm going to put my lids on all of these, and I'm going to shake them up a little bit, and then I will show you how to make sure that the product can breathe. So we want these to be able to breathe a little bit, because whenever this starts to ferment, it will try and shoot CO2, or the yeast will produce CO2, and it has to go somewhere. So if you just cap this, then there's a chance it'll explode on you. So don't do that. What I'm going to do, I have cheesecloth here. You can do this with really anything else, but this is cheesecloth, and I am going to take and cut a little piece of it to go over this like that, and then I will put my lid back on, and I will puncture a hole in the top of this so that air can escape. So you see here, I don't want to turn this because it'll fall over, but this is the cheesecloth on top. The cheesecloth is to make sure there's this hole here. It's not big enough to let anything in, like any bugs or anything, but the cheesecloth just really ensures that if something were to try to get down there, it couldn't because it's so tiny. So I have a tiny hole for CO2 to escape. Let me go ahead and do that with the rest of these, and then I'll tell you the next step. Everything's ready to go ahead and ferment now. You could do the same process. You could take this lid off and put a balloon, stretch it over there, poke a tiny hole in that balloon, and you'll see it, you know, fill up and basically release CO2 in the same way. Essentially what we're creating is what's called an airlock. Now, you can also do the same process if you want to use real equipment like glass containers and that stuff. However, for the sake of this video, you could ferment exactly this way. So very soon after you start this, you should start to see some bubbling, and I'll show you what that looks like essentially. The fermentation process is very clear that something's happening within them. The biggest thing here is wine yeast is intended to retain flavors from fruits and things that create wine essentially. Whereas bread yeast was essentially made to make bread, which is less controlled. So I will tell you the taste difference between these, but I'll give you a little bit of update, and then we will taste test them and see what the difference is between them. So let's go ahead and start fermenting. So it's been roughly about 24 hours, and they all started fermenting pretty quickly. You can kind of see here that this is what your fermentation should look like roughly. So right there, that's just a bunch of CO2 bubbles, and each one of them has that happening with it essentially right now. That's a little harder to see. But all of them are fermenting. Okay, it's been 2 weeks. I've been waiting for these to finish, and they have. You can tell that your brew has finished if there is low to 0 bubbles. Like right now you see the bubbles are really, really slow. That means that the yeast are finished. It'll probably degas a little bit. You'll also see, for example, a small layer of sediment or yeast at the bottom. I have taken a gravity reading of all of them just a moment ago, and they have all leveled out to 1.000, meaning I'll show you the ABVs for each one of these on screen according to their starting gravity and now their final gravity. My next step is going to do a taste test, and then I'll show you the kind of next thing you can do with these in the future. All right, here we are for the taste test portion of this. It has been about 2.5 weeks since these started fermenting. They've all finished. As you can see, and I just showed you, the bubbling has slowed down, meaning that the yeast are pretty much done. And I know they're done because I did a gravity reading, and they've all leveled out. So I'll give you that information in a moment. But we're here to taste test the difference. I have set this up. We don't know which one is which. So for example, these are 2 glasses of our crayon pineapple one right here, and one is the bread yeast, one is the wine yeast. We don't know which one is which. We're going to taste test and choose which one we like more. At the very end, I'll tell you which one is the one that's better. This is Reed. He's been on the channel many times before, and I'm glad to have him on to help me do this. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's just start first off. I didn't put them in the same order. We'll start over here. So this is the Juicy Juice Cherry Juice, and that's that one right there. Yep. Okay. So obviously we don't know which one's which, so I'm not going to tell you which one to taste first. We're just going to taste test real fast, and then we'll come back and we'll give some notes about what we think. So let's go and taste test. Let's see.
Okay. Nope. I have a favorite.
I have a clear favorite.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're taste testing the difference between these two. One is a little cloudier than the other. Yeah. And I'm trying not to look at the bottom of it. But this one right here is a little clearer, and you can't quite see. And it has a, I feel like it retained a little more juice flavor, more cherry-esque. I think I'm talking about that one. I think.
Yeah, this one.
Is that the one you prefer?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this one, it's muddy. It's
sour.
It is kind of sour, and I lose, like, I had to ask. I was like, is this cherry?
Yeah.
Because it tasted like any kind of fruit.
Yeah,
like anything.
It had quite some bite. Okay, so we're gonna put the one we prefer in the front.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put that one since I put it out in the front. This one behind. We're gonna move on now to our straight up normal apple juice that you can get. So here we are. This one is mega clear though, and you can tell. I think Can you tell the carbonation difference?
This, I mean, yeah, it looks like it's a little carbonated.
Yeah, there's the
a lot more bubbles at the bottom.
The legs, I think, is what those are called. So
oh, really?
This has some. The legs are what cling to the glass in the whatever wine world. This one definitely looks a little more still. Let's taste test these.
Okay.
The one that has the legs on it, that the carbonation, the bubbles sticking, is a little more tart to me. I don't know. I think it's that one.
This one?
Yeah. Just slightly more tart, a little more sour tasting. It's not as apple-y as I thought it might be. Like this one that has no legs on it. I prefer this one, whichever side. It definitely, both of them retained.
I have to say, I disagree.
Oh, really?
I like the one with a
little more tart?
bubbles more. Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know if maybe it's. I don't know.
There's definitely.
I think it has a little bit more residual sweetness, and I don't know. I feel like I get more apple on the the one with the bubbles as opposed to this one.
Yeah, they're not bad. Like neither of them, like the last one. There's not a clear,
it's
like
not a
terrible.
Clear,
But okay, well I definitely prefer whatever that one is. I don't know. Again, we don't know what's what at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to just normal grape juice land.
Okay.
Welch's grape juice. This is the one people swear by. So let's see which one's better. Here we go. No visible difference between them.
I think mine might be got a little bit of the bubble going on that one.
Slightly.
But
they're both very clear. Smells very. Grape juice just has such a strong. It's like someone left the communion out a little too long.
Yeah. This one tastes a little stale to me. Like, this one's a bit more vibrant. It tastes a little.
Are you talking about? You're talking about the one. Okay.
The one on my left. Yeah, it just tastes like a little bit brighter, a little bit more lively, and this one just has a little bit of a stale, not off, but just.
Yeah, I almost prefer this. There is some extra bite, I feel like, with this one specifically. The bubble, I don't know, a little more bitterness to it.
Yeah.
But this one, it does feel a little stale. You're right. Maybe that brightness is actually kind of nice. Brings out some of that fruit. Okay, well,
I don't know.
I agree. This one's a little. It does have that stale, dark. It's very dark toned.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Maybe it would be more complex as it aged, but just right now.
And our last one, this is the cran pineapple, and I'm good feeling about this one. Yeah,
that sounds. Like
when I was choosing the juices, I was like, what could be good? You know, same thing as I feel like the grape juice. This one actually,
I think there's a slight difference.
There's a slight more haziness in my right hand.
Same. Yep.
So this one is a little more clear. They both have a decent amount of bubbling, decent amount of legs, kind of. Oh, maybe the right one. I don't know. The one that has less clarity is definitely has a little more bubbling action.
Yeah.
Let's taste it.
All right.
Very bright, like the nose. It smells like
That's
juice.
nice. Yeah. No,
But this is definitely so far my favorite.
Yep, by far. Okay.
Wow. Man. Yeah, the nose on it smells just like the normal juice. You don't get any alcohol, anything. This could be like a trash can punch at this point.
It could be.
Because you don't really get a lot of alcohol in the actual drink at all.
No, it's like smooth already.
Ooh, that slight bite carbonation in the more hazy one.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice.
It is kind of nice. Yeah, like that's a...
Ooh. Oh, it's also got some, I get a little minty. I don't know.
like a...
Yeah, almost.
Makes me think of... I guess it's like maybe the cran. I don't know.
I guess the citrus from the cranberry.
This one, man.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's definitely my
totally
favorite
agree.
of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now let's figure out, in our opinions, now this is not the end-all be-all of opinions, but this is our opinions, which one tasted better. So let's first start with the cherry. So what was your, look at the bottom real fast.
All right, let's
Which was
see.
your favorite?
That was wine.
This was the wine,
Yep.
yes. So we both picked the wine yeast for this one. I think that bread yeast had something happened with it.
Yeah, it just tastes a little funky, a little off.
Bread yeast can work for things. I've done it a lot, but in this case, I think it was a bit much.
Yeah.
Apple juice.
Okay.
Okay.
Can't remember if we disagreed on this.
I think we did. I picked the wine yeast.
Well, I did as well.
Okay.
Oh, I guess they were just switched on the table. But
Maybe so,
okay.
yeah.
Well, we both...
Well, I thought we disagreed, but...
I thought maybe I thought it was switched or something, but I guess we picked the same one.
Oh. So, we both picked wine yeast for this one. I thought it was one... I think we did have a little bit of a disagreement, but...
Maybe we were switched. We
Yeah.
thought the other one was...
It's not... I do think that this apple juice, if I was ranking these so far in, like, the actual workhorse of the yeast, apple juice is probably my second favorite. That cran pineapple is freaking awesome.
I think I agree with you.
All right, last one. Or not last one. And grape juice,
Okay.
wine yeast.
Yep.
Okay, man, wine yeast is clean sweet.
Yep.
Again, we did not know what was what. We were just taste testing
idea.
blind. And the cran pineapple,
The last one is...
wine yeast.
Yep.
Man, that full clean sweet.
Yep. Okay.
So I think there's a point to be proven here. I will say I was a little surprised by... I thought the wine yeast to be the most clear for all of them.
Yeah.
And like in this case, the cran pineapple...
It's definitely...
It's more hazy.
Yeah, it
which
definitely
is interesting.
is.
But it retained the... I think the fruit flavor a little better.
Yeah. It definitely has like a more clean taste. And it didn't muddy any of the waters. I mean, it's...
And that's a huge thing for me. Like, the reason we use wine yeast is because it's specifically made to retain flavors when you brew wine, when you brew mead, or whatever you're doing. And bread yeast can do some of that, but most of the time it's just a general fermenter. It just...
Yeah.
There's no control.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a clear sign that wine yeast is the better choice if you're going to... choose between using bread or wine yeast. Can you use bread yeast? Yes. If you don't have wine yeast, it's not the end of the world. In fact,
yeah, I mean, these are all drinkable.
The only one that was not great, and I think it was just something might have happened, was the cherry.
Yeah.
The other three were really okay.
Honestly, I mean, between these two, the what is this? The cran pineapple?
Yeah.
They're both delicious.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm thinking about just keeping them putting it on tap. That's pretty
why
good.
Not? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm now going to teach you what you can do post making it, how you can maybe improve the brew, bottle it, and do those things. So, thank you, Reed, for helping me with this taste test.
Yep, you're welcome.
Appreciate you.
Okay, so you just saw the tasting side, and it was pretty clear that the wine yeast was much better than the bread yeast. Can you use bread yeast? Absolutely. I don't want to discourage anybody from using it to say it's bad. It just did not make as nice of a product. Let's talk about the next steps. So let's say you've made this, made your brew, whichever one you chose. You have a couple options. I'm just going to use one of these as an example for the rest of them. So let's say I wanted to move on to the next step of this apple juice, or apple cider is basically what it is. First thing you can do, you want to move it off of the yeast that are here. So what I've sanitized everything I'm going to be using today, including this, which is just a pitcher. So I'm actually going to take, and this is not using any equipment, by the way. I'm just going to use no equipment at all. I'm going to take and lightly pour this apple juice into here, and I'm going to try and not get the sediment there at the bottom. So let me do this real fast. Just lightly. I'm going to also try to not oxygenate this, even though I'm getting a little oxygen in right now. It's not great, but this is a no equipment option. So let me pour this in real fast. With me having lightly poured this, I have kept the yeast there at the bottom. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go and rinse this out real fast. We're going to use this same container as to not have to worry about using anything else. you don't want to age in plastic for a long time. So this Resolve is not great for, let's say you wanted to keep this in here for 6 months. This Resolve is good for maybe a month, maybe 2 months at max. Let me rinse this out real fast. Now that this is empty and we've gotten the yeast that were at the bottom out, we're gonna take and go ahead and lightly pour this back into here for storage. With this back in here, we could now let this sit for maybe another month or 2 at max. Again, plastic is not good for aging in for long term. So let's say that I wanted to just age this and drink it over time. I could throw my cap back on. This thing will keep any yeast or anything out because it has just enough room for oxygen to get out. You can also, at this point, if you have a normal apple juice cap, you could probably just put it on, because there's a little bit of degassing. You just want to open every once in a while to let any CO2 get out. From here, you could drink it. You could go ahead and bottle it. And the bottling process is exactly what we just did, but you would take and get maybe some wine bottles, maybe some beer bottles, and lightly pour it in, and then you'd have to have a capper of some sort to do that. So let's say that you have this here now and you go, it's not sweet enough. I would like to make this better, which is a very valid criticism. If you're drinking something like this that is, you know, supposed to be a little sweet and it is dry like this, you're going to add some sugar. In order to do this, you have to stabilize this, which means you use potassium sorbate. Potassium sorbate is a stabilizer. You can get it at brew shops, Amazon, online sources in general. All of that will help to kill any possible fermentation here. Even though we racked off the yeast, there's still a chance some are thriving in there. If you were to add more sugar on top of this right now, the yeast that are still in here would start to reproduce again and eat that sugar, which then just makes it go away, makes it turn into alcohol again. And you want to keep the sugar. So you would stabilize with potassium sorbate, wait about 24 hours, maybe add your regular table sugar, your honey, your maple syrup, your whatever you're trying to add to it. And that's an option. So, and of course, at that point, once it's back sweetened and you notice that there is no more re-fermentation, it's safe to go ahead and bottle, and you could pour and do that stuff. If you want to do this a little more officially and have a less likely chance of oxygenating your mead, you can get something called an auto siphon. This thing helps you to move any of your brew over as you're doing it. So this thing, it literally just, you put it in the brew, you pump some, and it moves the liquid into a different container. And it makes it less likely to have oxygen. Oxygen is terrible for alcohol, just to let you know. So it's very risky when I'm just pouring this into something else because oxygen is getting into it. But that's the basics of this. This thing right here, all of these are really pretty good. And my favorite by far is this cran pineapple, as it was for Reed. So he really liked that. I would love to know what you think. Maybe you've done this before with some other brew, which is awesome. Maybe you have a different juice you like to use as a base. But this has been a store-bought cider. Now, of course, I didn't do the bottling process, and I'm sorry I didn't do the back sweetening process, but they are very simple, and I'll make sure and throw it up again right here, right now. If you want to back sweeten this thing, you have to first get some potassium sorbate, put potassium sorbate into the brew, and then wait about 24 hours. And at that next point, you can add your sugar, however much you want to use to sweeten it to your taste. And then, if you're gonna bottle either the sweet version or just the regular version, you can let this thing age maybe in this plastic for a month or 2 at max. Then you can either buy an auto siphon and bottle or rack it into each bottle and cap or cork your bottles, or you can pour very, very lightly. Just a reminder though, oxygen is bad for the brew. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a store-bought cider. I've actually, the wine yeast version of this cran pineapple, we were just drinking in there a few minutes ago because it's pretty fantastic. So let me know what you think. Hit like and subscribe if you want to support the channel, and I'll see you guys next time in a future video. Cheers.